Hi, my name is Joseph, and welcome to Digimon Seekers Chapter 3, Unit 11, Digital Missing in Action. So right off the bat, I'm noticing that this chapter does not say Part 1. We'll see that continues next week. Right now, it just says Unit 11, Digital Missing in Action. And before we continue with the quote itself, just right off the bat, I'm loving how, despite the cover picture for Chapter 3 containing Yulin, we don't begin from her perspective, nor do we begin with EG interacting with Yulin, but rather we begin with a backstory of Tartarus. We were getting our first instance, our first point of view from Tartarus's perspective and his Digimon Doromon. The reason why I like that so much is just because everyone has ever read, for example, A Song of Fire and Ice, the series. A lot of the books, when they begin, the chapters, it's not uncommon where it's from a point of view of a completely random character. A character who's not one of the protagonists, not even one of the main secondary characters, but quite literally just a side character. Really awesome, really cool. Again, I'm only appreciating that just because to me, that's a sign that Bandai Namco is taking the writing quite seriously. So I do appreciate that. So let's get right into it. The first quote I want to look at: "The gatekeeper Digimon, as they're quickly known, descend like a swarm of locusts upon any who dare attempt to get through the firewall. With the Lachenwall stats or power, they make up for by attacking in hordes of hundreds or thousands at a time. The SOC unit, on the other hand, consisted of a handful of ultimate level Digimon. Everyone in the elite crew was an S-tier codecracker, but they couldn't hope to defeat an army of thousands, assuming the enemy forces were even finite in the first place. Time to get to work, Doromon. We're moving to phase 3. Tartarus said from let me start that over. Time to get to work, Doromon. We're moving to phase 3, Tartarus said from Doromon's Digicore as he sent some commands through his software tool. Got it, the rookie Digimon replied, initiating his digivolution first to champion, then to ultimate. So right off the bat, again, I just don't like how the pronouns that's being used for Digimon, first they were utilizing its, and that's why I was changing the pronoun to him and his for Postmon and Logomon. But then by the end of that last part of Chapter 2, I noticed that they start utilizing they, them pronouns, which is, I think, much better than it, because it tends to imply that, well, it's not alive, and as the story likes to remind us, or at least it used to at the beginning, Digimon are alive, right? So I was never a fan of utilizing the word or the pronoun it for the Digimon, but yet at the beginning of this chapter, we're reverting back to the it pronoun instead of they, them. I would have much preferred they, them over it because, again, it kind of implies a lack of, life. Anywho, I know that was a quick tangent. It's just it caught me off guard. So let me read that last part again. Got it, the rookie Digimon replied, initiating his Digivolution first to champion, then to ultimate. Anywho, sorry. I didn't notice that the first time I read it, surprisingly. Anyway, so why did I choose this quote? It really reminds me of Halo Reach. So let me quickly explain. So I love how the story so far is implying, and also the picture that occupies this chapter implies that the rest of the group, the Sons of Chaos, they're on their ultimate level already. Yet Tartarus, he's not. He's still at his rookie level. I think it makes sense as we continue with the part why he's still in his rookie level. Again, keeping in mind the L link and everything like that, the mind link and the L limit and how long one has. More than likely, they saved Tartarus from not digivolving in order to save him for the final act of their plan. But I just can't help but be reminded of Halo Reach. Specifically, there's a portion in Halo Reach towards the end where Noble Team is walking through a secret facility and the rest of Noble Squad is surrounding Noble leader Carter. And Carter has his weapon holstered. It's on his back, his assault rifle, his pistol's on his side. He's just walking through the facility completely at ease. Not showing really any concern that there possibly are hostiles in the area, despite the fact that the group Noble Team just fought through enemies. I love how Noble Team surrounds Carter, and that implies that Carter trusts his team enough that if anything were to happen or occur, they would get into action, allowing him the time to unholster his weapon and join the fray, right? I can't help but be reminded of that scene from this passage, because we have the rest of the team in their ultimate levels, and then we have Doromon and Tartarus, who maybe they're not just walking, but they're just kind of not part of the fray currently. Not because they're weak, but because they're part of a bigger plan. I just really like this passage and the characterization that it puts into the Sons of Chaos. We already know that up to the last mission, Operation Infinity, that the Sons of Chaos had successes, and they've never had anyone go into a DMIA. So again, we know now that Tartarus is an individual who keeps his team in mind, but not only that, it seems like he keeps them in mind because he knows how to work as a community. He knows how to work within a team and how to lead a team. I just really enjoyed that passage. Moving on, the interface on Doro Greymon's head, so Doromon has evolved, began to glow. Characters made of pure light began to appear on the surface of the massive metal sphere. Code, commencing crack. Contact with the gateway in 10, 9, 8. Doro Greymon intoned as the metal meteor began its descent. The army of gatekeepers, rather than flee, raced directly underneath the metal meteor. They piled in next to one another, all pressing against a projectile, trying with a combined might to lift it back up and away from the gateway. They're trying to stop it, Tartarus. Let them try. Keep going. The metal meteor continued its swift descent and made contact with the gateway, crushing the gatekeepers in its path. So what I find so interesting about this passage is these gatekeepers. I'm really imagining this scene of how they're all attacking the rest of the Sons of Chaos. But once Doro Greymon initiates his attack to break into the gate, the gatekeepers shift their strategy and they all swarm. They rush under this attack. It's a really cool visual to envision, in my opinion, and it really helps to highlight how these gatekeepers, well, as the name implies, they really don't want anyone to break into the gate. They want to make sure they protect it. And this also implies that if the rest of the team started attacking these gatekeepers while they were trying to stop the meteor, they probably wouldn't try to defend themselves. And again, I think that adds a little bit more to the situation that's going on. I know I keep saying the word appreciate it, but I do appreciate that. It just adds so much to the scene. And I also appreciate the confidence from Tartarus. They're trying to stop it, Tartarus. Let them try. Keep going. That's just very cool. To me, it doesn't sound like it's arrogance, rather just confidence. Tartarus, I'm sure, has a lot of faith with Doromon, and I'm sure he has faith within his team as well, these Sons of Chaos. We really know that he's a determined individual. It's not a coincidence that the part begins with discussing adventurers, and we shift over to, I was going to say pioneers, adventurers, and pioneers, because the adventure types are the ones who discovered the new world, and then we have the pioneers who settled the new world, and we have Tartarus, who, discovering this new digital world, he wasted no time and trying to discover what he wanted to pay attention to, the things that he wants to uncover and unveil, and thus he created the Sons of Chaos. Obviously, Tartarus is a very determined individual. I can't wait to find out more about him, maybe even about his history. So moving on. Spidery lines of light began to stretch across the gateway, radiating out like cracks in glass. The gateway was breaking. A massive metallic thud vibrated through the air, followed by low groans as the gateway continued to strain. The remaining gatekeepers swarmed Doro Greymon in a last-ditch effort to stop the Digimon attacking the gateway. You think you can stop us? Maximum firepower, everybody. We just need to buy him another minute, Marvin shouted. The entirety of the SOC group launched everything they had at the gatekeepers. So here, again, I think really emphasizes the team, how they work together. They're not working individually. So the gatekeepers, realizing that they can't stop this attack, they instead go to the source of the attack, who is Doro Greymon. And I didn't read it before this. When Doro Greymon initiated his attack, the rest of the team, they backed up a little bit. And also because they were being swarmed as well. Tartarus didn't want them to become, I'm going to assume, not to get hurt. So they backed up once they evolved. And I'm only mentioning that detail because I think it adds, that context adds to this scene when Marvin says, or the remaining gatekeepers swarmed Doro Greymon in a last-ditch effort to stop the Digimon attacking the gateway. You think you can stop us? Maximum firepower, everybody. We just need to buy him another minute, Marvin shouted. I love how without any hesitation, without any command from Tartarus is not to say, we need support. diverge their fire or whatever it may be. What's that term when suppressing fire, right? Suppress their attack. We need suppressive fire to get more time. Tartarus just keeps doing what he needs to do, and Marvin, I'm going to assume he is the second in command. As soon as he sees that Tartarus needs assistance, what does he do? He takes the initiative and he tells the rest of the group, we need to stop. They're going to attack Dora we need to stop them and buy them that time. I just really appreciate that. Really emphasize this how this group. I would argue they're not just a terrorist group. They're a group of brothers, of camaraderie. Kind of like Robin Hood and his band of thieves, quote unquote, right? When I say thieves, that sounds negative. In the same way that the SOC at the start of the story seemed to be negative, but I argue has positive elements. We are going to discover their go a little bit, the source code. That's not here, but the next passage. But what do they do? What do they want to do with that source code? I'm sure we'll discover more about that as the story continues. A previously loud and conspicuous humming that had simply faded into the background ceased, and the sudden silence was jarring. Dora Greymon's metal meteorite completely ground to a halt. The code that lit up its surface began to fade, and the decoding progress bar stopped just beyond 30%. What's happening, Dora Greymon? Tartarus barked. Process terminated. This is as far as we'll get with the power of a single prototype Digimon, Dora Greymon said coolly. Just as we hypothesized, Tartarus said with a heavy sigh. The gate requires a tripartite. The gate requires a tripartite key. Excuse me, I probably didn't pronounce that correctly. We need all three attributes in order to crack it. We are in need of two more prototype Digimon, a virus type and a vaccine type. All of them must be ultimate level, and all must attempt to crack the gate simultaneously, Dora Greymon continued. You're a data type. Yolin's Ryudomon is a vaccine type. We just need one more, Tartarus said to himself, looking out the gateway through Dora Greymon's eyes. So this really says a lot about Tartarus. He's obviously aware, much more aware than E.G., I would argue more than likely Leon, and Yulin even. Probably the professor is the only one that Tartarus is either equal or not as knowledgeable when compared to this character. Again, the professor has more knowledge, possibly. But what am I talking about? The fact that right off the bat, Tartarus is aware about prototype Digimon. So how did he discover that? Did he discover Doromon in the same way that Logomon was discovered? Was Doromon just a wild Digimon and Tartarus just found him and they formed a link? Right, I'm really looking forward to discovering that information because so far we know that E.G. got Logomon through the professor, and we know that Yulin has a relationship with the professor and she has with Ryudomon. I think most of the readers were probably assuming / deducing that she got her Digimon through the professor. So then, where did Tartarus get Doromon from? And how is he aware about Ryudomon as well? Since this is the past, this more than likely, it's a flashback, this more than likely means that there was no partner yet for Logomon. And the fact that he says we just need one more, and also implies that he being Tartarus, is not aware that the third Digimon, the third prototype Digimon, is Logomon specifically. So, yeah, it is very curious. Is the professor working with Tartarus? Did Tartarus get Doromon through the professor? If that is true, then it would make sense why Tartarus knows so much. It wouldn't surprise me if the professor was letting him know, giving him information. But if that's not true, again, where did Tartarus get Doromon from? The beginning of this part of this chapter, excuse me, because I'm so used to the parts. The beginning of this chapter does indicate that Tartarus is a go-getter. He's not just one to sit passively by and do nothing. But I don't think that's enough to explain how he formed his relationship with Doromon. Again, I'm really looking forward to that in the future. And also what I like about this so much is that the story just flat out just tells the audience, yes, these three Digimon will more than likely be working together. It might be foreshadowing, working together as partners or working together because they're going to be forced because of an external factor. Kind of like Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood with Scar's character who was the antagonist at first working against the protagonists. But spoilers, it's an old anime though, / manga. But then by the end, he ends up working with them as allies, right? So who knows? Could this be foreshadowing that they will be working as a team in the future? Or will they just be forced to work together because of external factors? Yggdrasil and his Royal Knights, Royal Knights. They're going to be enough of an issue forcing everyone else to come together. Let me make sure that's everything I want to look at. Yeah. Going on to the next quote, it remained firmly shut. The gate remained firmly shut, like someone had placed a lid on a volcano. This gateway, Doro Greymon interjected, has been here a long time. I'm sure you know. It predates the existence of the Waslam. Of course, it did. It was only through the advent of humanity connecting to the internet and developing their own network that the real and digital worlds discovered one another, which resulted in the digital world constructing the gateway and response. That in turn led to large data drifts near the gateway and scores of Digimon who could not return to the digital world. These exiles banded together and built the Waslam. It might as well be a prehistoric artifact to them, is what you're saying. Precisely. To them, it's a door that requires 3 ancient organic keys. 3 magical good luck charms, if you like, Doro Greymon replied. But this gate hides what we seek, doesn't it, Doro Greymon? Yes, Doro Greymon said, flapping its wings gently in agreement. Beyond the gateway lies the deaths, as you call them, and the source code. So this is really cool, even though we're not getting any direct information about EG and EG and Leon. We now can infer that where EG and Leon had their battle, that's where Leon's being taken into the deaths. And where they were fighting at was essentially possibly, they could have been fighting on top of the gateway for all we know. They just didn't know it was the gateway. We mustn't forget that the fighting location, the setting that EG had chosen, he chose for strategic purposes. It wasn't just in the regular Waslam, but a little bit away from there. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, I just really like this quote because of the world building that it's doing, essentially giving us more information about the digital world, more information about how it connected with the real world, and the perspectives that Digimon have within this society as well. I think they're doing a great job with the world building, and in connection with the world building, we're getting more and more about what the protagonists, but the characters and their goals, objectives, what they possibly want. The source code. Well, what is this source code? Is explained. And Tartarus continued getting to the heart of the matter. And the source code, Tartarus continued getting to the heart of the matter. What did you call it in the real world? The Holy Grail, Doro Greymon asked. The thing with which all manner of miracles are possible, and the thing with which no one must ever possess. Then perhaps you should abandon your search. Indeed. The source code beyond the gateway has the power to change the world. We cannot simply know how it would change the world, but I believe it will be better than the world as presently constructed, Doro Greymon said summarily, and I will be the one to change it. You're a regular revolutionary, aren't you? Tartarus mused. For example, which revolutionary from your history would you compare me to? Oh, that's not for me to say. Revolutionaries are judged in the eyes of history long after their deaths, Tartarus said, feigning ignorance. I do not wish to die, nor do I, but there are things worth risking one's life for. Tartarus switched to the private line to Doro Greymon so they continued the conversation undisturbed. We Digimon are born of chaos, and Digivolution is the fate that has been thrust upon us. And humans are right there beside you. Over the last 2,000 years, we've simply become adept at gaming the system, so to speak. So again, this has a lot within the passage. Let's start at the end of it first. We're getting more characterization about Tartarus. At the start of the story, it wouldn't be surprising if most of us being the readers, thought of Tartarus as an individual who did not care about Digimon, who only used Digimon as tools, and viewed the digital world as something to be conquered, something to be subservient to the real world. The more we discover about Tartarus, though, I'm going to argue that that's pushing back against the assumptions that some of us may have had. That's definitely true for me, at the very least. The more we discover about Tartarus, the more that I'm realizing that Tartarus does care about Digimon, does care about the digital world, and there seems to be a common denominator between most of these characters so far. We have EG, who wants to change the world. We have Leon, who, although never explicitly states he wants to change the world, I would argue that his actions has the possibility to do that, right? Why is Leon so adamant about being a vigilante or a hacker? Because he's seen the consequences of what occurs from code crackers, and I would argue that has an effect upon the world. So although, again, he hasn't explicitly stated it, I would argue Leon, he's changing the world also, or wants to change the world. Now we have Tartarus, not just Tartarus, but his partner Digimon, who, I'm not going to lie, kind of sounds a little bit like Thanos. I like that little portion right here when Doro Greymon states, the source code beyond the gateway has the power to change the world. We cannot possibly know how it will change the world, but I believe it will be better than the world as presently constructed, and I will be the one to change it. Obviously, though, hopefully not as antagonistical as Thanos, but I was reminded about that a little bit. But Tartarus and Doro Greymon, what do they both want to do? They both want to have an impact upon the world as well. And I would argue that Yolene, although we haven't discovered or heard anything about her yet, it wouldn't shock me if somehow, even if it's not explicitly stated, it's just implied that she also has a desire to impact the world as well. I'm only bringing this detail up because I don't think it's a coincidence that so far the professor has some connection to the rest of the Linker Strap holders, and so far we don't know there is any connection with Tartarus yet. It wouldn't surprise me if there was, though. The professor was actually, if he was the one that did give Tartarus Doromon. And yeah, but again, we'll see in the future how this plays out. In addition to that, what I like about this quote, I already discussed it, but I liked how it really characterizes Doromon. He kind of reminds me of Logomon a little bit without the sass, without the attitude. Logomon, I would argue, is a little bit cocky, veering on the edge of arrogance, but he's able to support that, right? He talks because he knows that he can walk. That phrase, right? I'll talk and no walk. Logomon, he is talk, but he's also walk. I can't help but get the same impression from Doromon, except the only difference is that Doromon just doesn't have that attitude, the same attitude that Logomon has. I'm really looking forward to Ryudomon and how he'll be acting. It wouldn't surprise me if Ryudomon is more the stoic type, the stoic, respectful type, while this Doromon is the stoic, arrogant type, and then Logomon is just the arrogant, loudmouth type a little bit, right? Again, I don't mean this as a negative, as an attack on the characterization of these three Digimon so far. I love all three of them, Logomon, Doromon, and although Ryudomon hasn't been introduced yet, the way that his dialogue and speaking with Yolene in chapter 2, at the beginning of it, I'm really looking forward to further interactions. Oh wait, or was it chapter 1? Anyways, if one has been reading, they'll know what I'm referring to. And then lastly, I like again with the world building, what is the source code? Well, to help give it some insight for the readers, us being the readers, well, let's make it akin to the Holy Grail. And as a Holy Grail being an artifact, a methodological artifact that has power, well, now we the readers know, the source code. It's obviously a source of power. What kind of power? What can it do? We know that it could change the quote-unquote world. What that means, I'm sure we'll discover as we continue with the story. And then lastly, I like how the thing which all manner of miracles are possible, the thing which no one must ever possess, that's Tartarus, then perhaps you should abandon your search. Indeed. So I just like that little that banter between Tartarus and Doro Greymon. I don't believe Doro Greymon was being sincere when he said that. I do believe that he also wants to get the source code. It's already been implied, right, after this, that he wants to change the world. It was just Doro Greymon, I think, just having fun with Tartarus, just emphasizing their relationship. So the last quote I want to look at, the metal meteor at last came to a complete halt and now began to show cracks of its own. The screeching sound of metal being rent in fits and starts echoed throughout the caldera. The code along its surface began to warp and break apart, something was destroying the metal meteor from the other side of the gate. From the depths. They're here, Doro Greymon shouted, loath as all Waslam Digimon were to actually give name to the creature that was likely fighting back. One of the 13 Royal Knights, the Guardians of Yggdrasil. Marvin, taught everyone to fall back, Tartarus yelled into the voice chat. You heard him. Fall back unless you want to be DMIA, Marvin shouted. One by one, the SOC Digimon began to flee without hesitation. Doro Greymon and Tartarus took off after them. The gateway receded into the distance. Each and every one of them knew they didn't stand a chance against one of the Royal Knights, not even as a team. The Royal Knights, Tartarus said softly to himself, looking back at the gateway as Doro Greymon carried them further into the air. He then watched through Doraemon's eyes as a flash of light split the middle meteor in two and it disintegrated. What neither the Codecracker Todorus nor his partner Digimon Doraemon knew at the time was that it would be many, many more years before they would attempt to crack the gateway again. What a way to end this first part for Chapter 3. Again, this seems more like an interlude. I know last week we had our intermission, or what's the word that I'm looking for? This seems more like a... I'm having a lapse of judgment right now. For me, it's the morning, but the portion that comes, not an epilogue, but the opposite of an epilogue, an introductory element, a hook that comes before the start of Chapter 1 itself. But I can't help but feel maybe that's why it doesn't say Part 1, right? Maybe this is meant to be a sort of secondary intermission. It's just, again, I'm really loving so far with each release of chapters. I'm loving how Bandai Namco is really taking the writing seriously. So far, oh, excuse me, everyone. Oh no, I meant to click on the video to bring it back up. I clicked on the wrong thing. Okay, we're gonna go. What was I saying? I love how it's looking like they are taking this quite seriously, this project, and each new iteration, or rather, let me start over. Each new chapter, I just love how it's introducing something a little bit differently. So let me quickly explain. Chapter 1 was great. Chapter 2 introduced better translations, and I really appreciated that. I think that really helped for the digestion of the story. And now Chapter 2 also introduced intermissions. And now with Chapter 3, we have the introduction of an interlude before the actual beginning of the story. So again, it wouldn't shock me if next week was the actual Part 1. I will see how they're going to name the titles as we continue forward from here. But I really did appreciate Chapter 3. Really looking forward to the more world building, more characterization, and more history of all these of all these individuals. And of course, with Yolene being in the cover of Chapter 3, I am really looking forward to getting more information about the Digipolice. I feel like the Digipolice has been really absent from the story so far, but it wouldn't surprise me if they're going to be at the forefront now. And then really quickly, the title of this, Unit 11, Digital Missing in Action. So the DMIA, that's obviously going to be the focal point, and obviously because of Leon, right? Really excited for everything that's going to occur. What do you think is going to happen with Leon? Do you think he's still alive? Do you think he's in a coma? Do you think he's traversing the deaths right now? I think right now that's probably what's going on. Kind of like they found a little cave and they're hiding out in that cave, and Postman and Leon goes out to scavenge and everything like that. We'll go ahead and see what occurs, right? It wouldn't surprise me when the group being, I'm already assuming, assuming that E.G., Leon, and even possibly Todorus, E.G., Yolene, and even possibly Todorus, when they go in to rescue Leon, and maybe Leon wouldn't come out from the side, from the sidebar, all of a sudden saving the rest of the group. Oh, Leon, you are safe. This is awesome. You are safe and sound, right? Anyways, again, thank you so much for listening and watching. As always, I really do appreciate it. Oh, and by the way, excuse me so much. For those of you who leave comments, I always do appreciate that. I always do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. I know this week, I was really poor about that. Professionally, it was really busy for me. So that's the reason why I haven't responded back. So please do forgive me about that. I am planning to respond as soon as I can after I post this. And I always do thank everyone for the patience with myself and for the quality and my videos and everything like that. Again, thank you so much. Have a prodigious day and take care.